Blossom is back, and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives. Now, out of nowhere, we've been hit by a brand new event called Racing to the Skies, where all of us are racing for the BMW M3 GTS. Now, before I get into today's video, I want to ask the question that a lot of people have been asking me. Blossom, you have the BMW M3 GTS already, so what is the epic owner's prize car that you're getting? The thing is, guys, I am actually able to get it again. As you can see here, yes, I am able to get the M3 GTS all over again. The last time I won this, and the last time that you were able to win this, was I think January or February of 2018, so well over 3 years ago. And I guess Hutch was just like, you know what, let's just have the owners have it twice or 3 times or 4 times, because when I won it the first time, there were already players that had it twice. So for some players, this might be the 3rd time that you might be able to win the M3 GTS. For me, it's gonna be the 2nd time ever I win the BMW GTS. So no, I'm not having a special epic prize car, I'm just being able to win it again. Anyway, obviously, along with this event, we are given a new special pack, and that is the American Frontier 2000s pack, and that's exactly what I'm going to be reviewing today. I'm going to be splitting the video into 2 parts. The first part, I'm going to be talking about the best cars for the event and for winning the M3 GTS, and the second part, I'm just going to be reviewing the pack, the cars that you can get, and what I think are the best and the worst. So before I review about the M3 GTS and what are the best cars for that particular event, let me talk about the track sets. So the track sets here, well, basically it's all the new American Frontier stuff. So track set number 1 is going to be surface roads, G-force test, airplane hangar, slalom test, and airplane slalom. How I see it here is basically 3 twisty track sets and 2 hybrids. Now the next one is slalom test, canyon tour, airplane hangars, G-force, and surface roads. Once again, it's kind of like 3 hybrids and 2 super twisty, which is the slalom and the G-force. Then the 3rd track set is L-shaped drag, runway loop, half mile, twisty road, and runway drag. So now we're seeing 2 vanilla drags, like just straight lines, and then I would say 1 twisty and 2 hybrids, which are the L-shaped drag and the runway loop, because the L-shaped drag isn't just a straight, it's, you know, it's an L. And then the last one is airplane slalom, L-shaped drag, G-force test, canyon tour, runway drag, and slalom. In my opinion, I would say 2 hybrids, 3 hybrids and 2 twisties. So it's a bit of a strange one. There isn't any track set where you need a fast straight liner. There, you can't really use that. I don't think that's the best car to use, but you want a bunch of hybrid cars, you want a bunch of all-rounders. Honestly, this looks like a Viper event. So anyway, let me get into it. These are the best cars for the M3 GTS. Observe. So prize car winning, the best possible hand if you had duplicates, if you don't have duplicates, are going to be these 5. Basically, just a bunch of all-rounders, right? Both these Vipers, they handle incredibly well. Their 0 to 60s are low, and they have great MRA. It's the same story for the Ford Mustang. The Ford Mustang is actually better because it handles better. 0 to 60 is just about the same, and the MRI is in the 90s. The Ford Mustang GTR Coupe is going to be your twisty specialist because it has no MRA. And finally, it's going to be the legendary SRT10 ACR. But yeah, 3691, great MRA on that car as well. Handles really well, and the 0 to 60 is low. This is your absolute best hand. So if you do open the American Frontier 2000 packs and you get any of these cars, you already have 1 key car out of 5. If you have maybe 3 of these, I think you basically have the M3 GTS. Now, possible prize car winning is going to be around this mark. So the Acura DNX, the Dodge Challenger SRT10 Concept, the Ford Mustang SVT Cobra, the Acura HSC, the Dodge Viper SRT10, and the Dodge Viper SRT10 Convertible. All of these cars, once again, they're still great cars, just not as good as the top 5 as I have selected. Same story for the Vipers. These 2 Vipers are a bit of all-rounders, right? They handle well, 0 to 60 is kind of top speed is high, and the MRA on both of these Vipers are actually really good. The only reason why they're possible prize car winning is because they're just not as good as the GTS-R or the Viper SRT10. The HSC also handles amazingly well, same as the Mustang SVT Cobra. The problem is here, once again, both of these cars are not as good on the twisty tracks as these 2 Mustangs. And then obviously we have the Dodge Challenger SRT Concept. Now, the Dodge Challenger SRT10 Concept, I would put it in prize car winning if we had a drag constant. What I mean by a drag constant is that at least we would have at least one straight line drag for at least 3 out of the 4 track sets. However, that isn't the case. We have one straight line drag for 1 out of the 4 track sets. So because of that, this car is going to be less useful than more, and I'm only going to put it in possible prize car winning because it doesn't handle very well, but we're not going to underestimate the low 0 to 60 high top speed and the 98 MRA that comes with the Challenger SRT10. It's just not the best car to use for this situation. Once again, the Acura DNX is just a worse version of the Dodge SRT10 ACR and the Viper as well. I mean, as you can see, 3987, 3788. You really want to use this Epic. This Epic right here, this Viper, is going to be a key car. So if you got this Viper from Call of the Wild, congratulations. That's going to be a huge help. Honestly, even if you got the GTSR concept from Call of the Wild, congratulations. It's a huge help. Now, these are the cars that I have under Perhaps. Usually, if you want to have a winning hand for the M3 and you have a car from Perhaps, it probably means that you need 3 prize car winning. So let's say you had maybe 3 of the Vipers, 1 SVT Cobra. Yeah, then maybe you can sneak by of an Acura NSX or a Dodge Challenger concept or a Chrysler Firepower. But really, what you want to do if you want to be safe is to at least have 3 cars from well, actually, to be safe, you want 5 cars from this, right? But if you want to also be safe, I would say that you can get by with 3 prize car winning and maybe 2 possible prize car winning, or maybe 3 prize car winning, 1 possible and 1 perhaps, or maybe even 2 prize car winning, 2 possible and 1 perhaps. I think you would still be safe for the M3 GTS that way. Now, below perhaps are the cars in Dreamland. If you have any of these 3 cars in your current starting hand, you're honestly in Dreamland if you think you can get the M3 GTS. These cars aren't really going to make a difference for you, and that's going to include the SRT8, the Chrysler Nassau, and the Dodge Neon SRT4. Feels bad for the Nassau, man. The Nassau has never been useful in anything. When it was the concept final, you wanted to use the Cadillac 16. When it was like the American Frontier finals, there wasn't any rain, so you didn't want to use the Nassau. Really, there hasn't been an event where the Nassau has actually been useful, bar one regular ceramic Chrysler event. I mean, it's not really stonks if you max out the Nassau for that one event. And last but not least is Delusional. These cars are not going to win you anything. These cars are not going to win you the M3 GTS. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that these cars are hot garbage. It's just that they're useless for the M3 GTS event. That's why I'll be reviewing the pack later in a general sense. But for the M3 GTS event, all these cars are not going to win you anything. Most of these are going to be off-road tires or four-wheel drive standards or the lower end standards. And then yeah, once again, they just don't have the stats necessary. If you want this M3 GTS, if you are a BMW fan, I would really look at these cars over here on the top 2 lists. But anyway, let's get into the next list. This is going to be the general list where I just review the pack in general and I give you my verdict whether or not this pack is worth the buy or not. So let's get into it. Starting this off with the Acura NSX is going to be my number 1. It is the best, in my opinion, the best Ultra American Frontier ultra rare. I think I was a bit redundant. I think I said ultra rare already. It's among the best, if not the best. I would say it's the Acura NSX, the Ford Edge Sport, the Dodge Circuit, the Charger 3. Those are among the best. So the NSX is a fantastic car. You max the baby out, it's going to be 4095, which is the same stats as the 030. Next up on the list is the Acura RDX. It's going to be I see you. Now, you've seen all these before. You've seen all these ranks before. I'm bringing them back. So we got my number 1. Bro, you're respectable. I see you. Nah, man, you sus though, and Chief, this ain't it, because that's hot garbage. The RDX unfortunately just doesn't handle as well as its Japanese counterparts. A little ironic because, you know, it's an Acura, haha, it's Honda, but you know, it just doesn't handle as well. You max this thing out, I think it's gonna hit like 84, but there are other SUVs out there that's like the Infiniti, which is RQ85, oh, sorry, not RQ85, the Infiniti is RQ64, which hits 85 handling, or the other Infiniti, I think it's the XQ60, which hits 86, and also way lighter. So the RDX isn't a bad car per se, but it's just not the best. Now, moving on is the Acura RSX. I have to say that is a respectable car. As it stands right now, is a respectable car because you are getting a medium ground clearance standard tire car that has 89 handling. When you think about it, it's kind of like a Cadillac ELR, but it's medium, right? The problem with the Acura RSX is it's not front wheel drive, so it's never going to be in the same category as the ELR. So you can say it's the rear wheel drive version of the ELR, and I feel like this car is actually going to get nerfed. soon, according to Korn. I'm not sure about that, but as it stands with its current stats in the game, it actually is a pretty good ultra rare. It won me a prize card for crying out loud. It won me the FAP. But anyway, moving on is going to be the Acura ZDX. Once again, I'm going to put it under bruh, you respectable. You can't really go wrong with a 4-wheel drive standard tire car, and because of that, I'm going to put it under the respectable category. I'm sorry if I'm like feeling a little tired or I'm not as hyped as I am in my usual videos, because I actually just got vaccinated today, and I'm not sure if that made me any tired, or I don't know. I'm not really experiencing any symptoms, but maybe I am, and I just don't know. I don't know. I don't have a fever. I don't have any aches. My arm's a little sore, but that's about it. Anyway, I got vaccinated, so that's always good. Let me know down in the comments below if you're vaccinated, which vaccine that you got. I got Pfizer. But anyway, moving on now is going to be the Chrysler 300C Hemi. This one's actually pretty good. It's actually a pretty good car, not gonna lie. It's one of the better rear-wheel drive standard tire cars. 0 to 60 is incredibly low. You max that thing out. It's 4.4, and it goes over 80 handling as well. So it's actually a pretty good all-rounder. I would say it's the best of the Chrysler rear-wheel drive standards. I'm gonna put it under bruh, you respectable. Unlike the Chrysler Imperial, that's kind of sus. Now, this car has really bad stats. I know it has a slightly better handling by 1 to the 300C Hemi, but you look at the 0 to 60 difference, 6.2 to 5.3. That's almost a whole second. Now, the Chrysler Imperial concept does have, I guess, over average MRA. Like, the MRA is pretty good. Not as good as the Maybach Long Delay, so it's not going to be your best ultra rare standard dragster, and it's actually not good enough to catch up to the Hemi. The Hemi, just because it has that 4.4 0 to 60, is still going to be faster on the quarter mile and the half mile. I've tested this. The Chrysler Imperial concept is actually a huge disappointment. It actually loses track sets where I think it will win. You know, I put a lot of faith in the MRA, and it just doesn't pull through. So unfortunately, it's pretty sus. Next up on the list is the Dodge Challenger concept. Honestly, I see you. It's not really that good. It doesn't handle particularly very well. And from my best to worst, you know, RQ series, I rank this as one of the worst RQ59s. The only reason why I can only put it in ICU is because this car is even worse. Because as you can see, it's slower 0 to 60. I mean, it's slower to 60, and it handles just about the same. I mean, the only difference here is the 0 to 60. It's a good looking car. I am a huge fan of that Challenger. I have two of them max, but I have to be honest with you, after maxing both of them, I've never used them ever. It's the same story for the Challenger concept. Never used it ever. It's only a little bit more useful because it has that concept tag, whereas the Challenger SRT8 doesn't. Moving on is the Dodge M80. I'm gonna put it in ICU. I really want to put it under bruh, you're respectable, because it has a lot of incredible niches. It's a two-door, it's a pickup, it's incredibly light, and it handles well. It's actually like the ultra rare version of the Suzuki Ignis. The only reason why I'm not bumping it higher is because I've actually gotten a lot of use out of the 300C, out of the ZDX, and out of the RSX in clubs. But the M80, I just haven't really needed to use it that much, because in clubs we never see ×5 pickups. When it comes to ×5 two-seaters, also, you know, it has a good niche, but it needs to be utilized. You need to have an off-road event, which is two-seaters, which also is a lower RQ, because if not, people are going to be using the Peugeots and the Pike Peaks, the Pikes Peaks, and all those other two-seaters. So, you know, unfortunately, the M80, I haven't seen it used as much as I wanted it to, so I put it under ICU. Now, next up on the list is going to be the Dodge Neon Chief. This ain't it. I've never used it. Honestly, this is actually a worse version of the other Neon, the American Dream Neon. So because of that, it really isn't getting a lot of use. And also, when it comes to its niche in front wheel drive, you want it to handle, and it doesn't. 80 handling isn't good enough. When you compare it to all those Renaults, which hit like 85, 86, 84, this just isn't good enough. It just falls short of the mark. So unfortunately, Chief, you ain't it. Moving on is the Dodge Powerbox. I would say it's sus. I'm really excited for the future of the Powerbox. If it becomes an off-roader, like if it gets off-road tires, it's going to be a fantastic car. But where it stands right now, it's really heavy. It doesn't handle as well as the M80, and I just don't utilize it as much. The 0 to 60, I have to give it to it. It's pretty impressive. But once again, I have not been in the situation where the Powerbox have been super useful to me. So because of that, nah, man, you kind of sus. Now, next up on the list is the Ford Escape. I'm going to put it under ICU. That's going to be a bit of a hot take. I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with my, you know, ranking of the Ford Escape, but I have to say, it actually handles well. Now, I know what you're saying, Blossom, it handles the exact same as the Powerbox, so why is the Powerbox low? Well, it's a 6 RQ difference, right? It's a 6 RQ difference, so the Escape has that one up over the Powerbox. It has that niche where it's kind of in that range of just trash RQ Ultras that Hutch likes to feed upon all the time. I mean, mean, how many times have you seen ultra rare events where it caps at RQ54? The Escape is going to fit in that niche. Not only does it handle well for its RQ, it's also lightweight, which is a car that you can utilize in the snow. So I've actually gotten decent use out of it, and because of my personal experiences with the car, I have to put it under ICU. It's actually pretty decent. Last but not least is the Bronco, and that's going to be a respectable car. Four-wheel drive, off-road tires, once again, is kind of like the ZDX. You can't go wrong with that. Now, next up on the list is the Acura HSC. I'm a huge fan of the HSC. I'm going to actually put it under my number one. It's a lightweight car that hits 99 handling. The 0 to 60 is relatively low, and the top speed is high. The MRA on it is also pretty strong, so it's a bit of an all-rounder, but in a good sense, because it has amazing handling. So because of that, I think it's in my number one. Next up on the list is the Acura TL. That's hot garbage. We don't need to talk about that. Followed by that is the Chrysler Firepower. It's also hot garbage. I would say it's like the best of the hot garbage. Maybe you can say it's not man you sus, but it's not a good epic. And joining it is going to be the Nassau. The Nassau, like I said earlier on with the other tier list, it's just one of those cars where you really want it to have its day, but it never shows up. Once again, the Nassau has only been useful for one ceramic event. Outside of that, it hasn't been good. It's a slightly better version of the campaign Mercedes. I'll give it that. But that isn't saying much, because that campaign Mercedes is also hot garbage. Moving on is the Dodge Challenger SRT concept. I'm going to put it under ICU. It's a very niche car, right? You want it for the straights. That's it. You want it for the straights. It has amazing MRA, 98 MRA. It's still outside of American Frontier in the general sense. It's still going to lose to the Hellcats. It's still going to lose to the Juice, even when you just talk about American Frontier. So it's a good car. Great MRA, low 0 to 60, but just not as good as its peers. And once again, let's not forget that the Juice is also a concept. So you can't even say that this is the best dragster in the concept category because you have the Juice. And you also have other cars like the Aston Martin CC100, which has 100 MRA. Anyway, moving on with the list now, we have the Dodge Viper GTSR concept. That's going to be my number one. It has the concept tag, handles incredibly well, high top speed, low 0 to 60, great MRA. It's just a fantastic all-rounder. And it's just a slightly better version of the Acura HSC, if you ask me. Moving on is the Dodge Viper SRT10. That's going to be ICU. It's a very, it's an all-rounder as well. A lot of these Vipers, they kind of are just all-rounders. They handle pretty well. Their 0 to 60s are low, and their MRAs are actually high, among the 90s. So, most of the Vipers, no bias, are actually really decent. It's the same story for the Viper SRT10, so I'm just going to put it in the same rank. Now, next up is what I think is one of the best RQ78 cars in the entire game. Once again, it's just a slightly better version of the GTSR. The only reason why the GTSR kind of holds the candle in the same level as the SRT10 is because the GTSR is a concept. It has its niche. This isn't a concept, but it is, the better car. It's the better SLS Roadster. Moving on is the Ford Mustang FR500, my number one. That's pretty easy. One of the best RQ79s in the game, although it does lose to the RQ77 Mustang GT4. That's more so of the fact where I think that Mustang GT4 should also be 79 instead of this Ford Mustang FR500 should be 77, if that makes sense. Moving on is the Ford Mustang GTR concept. Once again, it has no MRA, but it is a great twisty car. It hits 100 handling, and that's one of the great things about American Frontier. American Frontier brings a lot of just great cars to the game. A lot of cars that know what their niches are. I want to be a fast car. I want to be a good all-rounder. I want to be a great twisty car, and we're seeing it displayed here. The Vipers are great. The Mustangs are great, and all I can give it are my number ones. Next up is the Ford Mustang SVT Cobra. I'm gonna give it, bruh, you're respectable. It's just a slightly worse version of the Acura HSC. That's all I can say. Although the MRI is a little lower, although the 0 to 60 is a little lower, the MRI on the HSC is stronger, much stronger, and it's a lighter car, and they handle about the same, and the HSC has a high top speed. At the end of the day, if you can use the Acura, use the Acura. That being said though, the Ford Mustang SVT Cobra is no joke. It's still a fantastic epic, and I would say it's one of the best RQ68s in the game. Unfortunately, the competition here is just too massive. I have to bump it down to, bruh, you're respectable. And it's the same for the Acura DNX. The Acura DNX is a relatively okay car. To be completely honest with you, the fact that it's a saloon and it's a concept, the fact that it holds all these niches and a 2000s car makes it incredibly useful. I mean, how many times have we needed to use the DNX now? We needed it for the SLS, we needed it for the FAP, and now we're needing it again for the M3 GTS. And then we also needed it for, what was it, the concept finals, which I think was for the Gumpert Apollo R. So the Acura DNX just seems to find its way into everything. So I have to put it on the bruh, you're respectable. Although it doesn't really have really good base stats, it doesn't matter because it seems to be there at everything. And it seems to be working for everything. Last but not least is going to be the Dodge Viper ACR, and this one is going to be my number one. Like I said in my top 3 best and worst, it's one of the best RQ81s in the game, period. You don't get a lot of low RQ legendaries in the 82 to 80 range that are capable of hitting over 100 handling, but this Viper is able to do so. And not only that, it has a low 0 to 60 or decent 0 to 60 for its RQ, good MRA, and it's a pretty lightweight car as well. But anyway, this is going to be my list. To be completely honest, it's a pretty damn good pack. So, should you open it? Yeah. Even if you don't want to go for the M3 GTS, this is a really good pack. American Frontier in general is just an update that brings a lot of game changers, and I think that this is a very, very strong pack. You are getting the best epic Dodge American Frontier car. You are getting the best epic Ford American Frontier car. You are getting the second best epic Dodge American Frontier car. I mean the best epic and then the second best. So second best in general, like in all cars, and this is the best epic. But technically you can also say that this is the third best, this is the second best, this is even the fourth best. There's a lot of good cars here. You also get some really decent ultra rares, like the only 4-wheel drive standard tire American Frontier car and the only 4-wheel drive off-roader American Frontier car. So there's a lot of niches in here for you to get. Obviously there are going to be some duds, but as you can see here, the positives actually outweigh the negatives. So once again, should you open it? I think you should. I think it's worth the money. I'm probably going to open 1 or 2 as well. But with that said, I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you found this video useful. Remember to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.